If you have ever felt overwhelmed by your yarn stash, like it's just spilling out of bins, hiding in random drawers, or just scattered all over the place, then this video is for you and me. Hi there, I am Lindsay with Off the Beaten Hook, and today we are tackling the ultimate yarn organization project. Together, we are going to walk through a 6-phase process that will help you finally organize your yarn stash once and for all, no matter the size of your space, no matter the size of your collection. And as we go through this, I'm going to bring you along with me as I revamp my yarn space and give it a little bit of a spiff up because it has definitely gone rogue on me and definitely needs a little TLC as well. And this isn't just about tidying up. It's about creating a space that feels inspiring and functional. And I know you are here because you are so ready for that. So let's not waste any more time. Go grab your favorite drink, a pen, some paper, and let's get started. Before we touch a single skein of yarn, we are going to plan. The goal of phase 1 is to visualize your end game and take pen to paper and do a big brain dump and write down your roadmap to get there. And I feel like now is the perfect time to share with you that I have created a free Yarn Space Makeover checklist to guide you through this entire process. This is one you're going to want to go get that as we're going through phase 1. If you want something to walk you through on paper, each of the phases we're going to go through in this video, you are going to want this guide because it's going to help you get your yarn organization working exactly how you need it to work for you, because I guarantee this is going to look just a little bit different for everyone. So this printout asks you all the questions that we're about to talk about now and gives you space to take notes, write down thoughts, and make lists. And it takes you through a checklist for all the 6 phases of this organization process. Totally free. You'll find a link to it in the description box below if you think that'll be helpful as you go through this. You're going to start off and ask yourself 3 key questions to get you through this phase. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, where will my yarn live? We're not talking about storage solutions yet. We're just talking about where in your space is it going to go. Maybe it's a dedicated craft room. Maybe it's a closet. Maybe it's under the beds. Where? Write it down. This would be the time for you to go measure out those spaces as well in preparation for the next question, which is, what kind of storage solutions do I have or need? So first, take inventory of any storage containers you already own so you can make use of those before you go run out and buy anything new. Also, another quick note regarding storage solutions. If you live in an area with high humidity, frequent temperature shifts, or pests like moths and silverfish, it's extra important to store your yarn with care. Opt for airtight containers or zip-top bags to keep moisture and bugs out. And consider adding some kind of natural repellents like cedar blocks or lavender sachets to those bins to keep out the bugs. Always store your yarn in a cool, dry place off the floor, away from direct sunlight, and never near a heat source or an open window. A little prevention goes a long way in keeping your stash safe and beautiful. So now let's brainstorm some storage options that might work for you based on where you live and the space you have. Shelving. If you have a small space in particular and can spare a wall, shelving is excellent because you can go up, which is always a great way to maximize small space. This is what I have. I found this cube style shelving online. They come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. I love them because I don't have to deal with bins or baskets or like digging around for my yarn. This allows me to just keep all my yarn visually front and center so I know exactly what I have at all times. If you can get your hands on any kind of shelving, even if it's not cubby shelving like this, you will be able to find some kind of storage solution to put onto those shelves. Wooden boxes, cotton boxes, cube storage, wire baskets, wicker baskets, plastic baskets. And here is my plug for thrifting because I always love to check a good thrift store before I buy something new. but I know that's not an option for everybody, so go with what you have access to. Another option, if you have wall space, is pegboard. This is a really beautiful and functional way to keep your yarn stash. I think storing your yarn like this also kind of doubles as like room decor because, of course, displaying beautiful, colorful yarn is just so eye-catching. And it keeps your yarn hanks nice and neat before caking them, and you can actually store your caked yarn on the pegs as well. This is something that I've been kind of wanting to integrate into my yarn space, and I just haven't yet. And so now talking about it is sort of inspiring me to get on that. Bins, clear bins for the win here. They come in every size you can imagine, and you can see through them, which makes finding the yarn you're looking for way easier. So think clear bins if you're working with closet space because they stack really nicely. Under bed space because they come in really narrow, long sizes. You can find them relatively cheap. I always check a thrift store again first, and they last forever. So if you end up not storing your yarn in them eventually, for sure you will find some way to use them. Trolleys. These are another handy solution in small spaces, especially if you can't spare wall space. These little guys are tiered and mobile. And if you're just getting into crochet and have a small stash, you might be able to fit everything you have onto just one of these cool little trolleys. You can wheel it around your house, you can wheel it out when you do your project, and then when you're ready to go, you can wheel it back in and get it back out of the way. Okay, here's some under bed options. I mentioned the clear bins, but there are also so many cute and functional under bed storage options. I have these drawers that I use under my kids' beds that look like a regular wooden drawer, but they're on wheels. This would be something that would be perfect to store yarn in. And you could equip these with some sort of like dividers or little bins or baskets to organize these. Just a handful of other notable mentions to see if any of these inspire you. There are furniture options that have built-in storage underneath them, like couches, ottomans, and an array of different table styles. You could use over-the-door storage. Again, several different styles and sizes here, all the way from shoe organizers. I actually just bought this one for our camper that I use over the bathroom door in there and store all kinds of miscellaneous stuff in. And I was thinking this would be perfect for yarn storage. If you're working with closets, of course, we've already talked about the bins, but you can also find low shelving that are just like a couple tiers. And also there's all kinds of different hanging organizers that you can find for closets as well. Finally, don't forget about notions. We are going to address them in phase 5, but while you're thinking about storage and what you need, be sure to think about what you need to store your hooks, tools, stuffing, all the little goodies in the space that you have. And I'll talk about some ideas for storing them when we get to phase 5. But as you're assessing your space, I didn't want you to forget about all the extras that you need to store as well. And be sure to share with us in the comments what you use, especially if it's something that we haven't talked about here yet, because if it has worked for you, for sure it will work for somebody else as well. And I am always looking for different ideas to revamp my yarn organization as well. The third and final question I want you to ask yourself during this plan and prep phase is, what is not working right now? Be honest. Maybe your current system is cute, but it's not functional. Here, you want to explore what are the things you think brought you to this point of needing to give your yarn space a major makeover. Maybe you're just starting off from scratch here, and that's great. But if you're here because your yarn just isn't inspiring or serving you, take a minute to figure out why that is so that that can be addressed and fixed in the following phases of this process. So as we wrap up phase 1, use your pen and paper or the printout I mentioned and just sketch out a rough draft of all of these things, asking yourself these questions. And before you rush out and grab your storage solutions, if you need them, wait until you get done with phase 2, because after that phase, you'll have a much better picture of what you're dealing with and everything that needs to find a new home. If you go out and stock up on all that right now, I can almost guarantee you'll end up having to return or make some kind of slight shift in what you thought you needed, because, spoiler alert, after phase 2, your yarn stash might and probably will look a little bit different than it does now. Now it's time to declutter. And I'm going to give you a big virtual hug here because this one is going to be the hardest part for some of y'all. Partially because this feels a little bit chaotic. It's going to get a lot messier before it gets better. And secondly, because you're going to have to get rid of some stuff. I want you to pull out every single skein of yarn from every hiding place, drawers, bins, under the bed, off those shelves, out of your car, all of your whips, all of your project bags. Pile it in one place so you can really see how much you have and what you have. Now we're going to sort it into 3 piles. The first pile is keep. This is the yarn you love and that you will actually use. Maybe you have a project already planned for it. You know you have enough of it to actually use it for a project. You're excited about this yarn. This is your keep pile. Your second pile is donate. Yarn that is still good and in good condition, but you no longer want it. It no longer serves you. You're going to ask a friend if she wants it, or you're going to pass it to a secondhand store. One gauge to use for this, if you pick up that ball of yarn and realize you've had it for more than a couple years, still haven't used it, could be time to let it go. I know this pile is really hard. You've invested money into this yarn. At one point you were really excited about this yarn, but you just still haven't used it. Something to consider if you absolutely insist on keeping that ball of yarn is to make some more decisions about it. My first suggestion would be to assign it a purpose. What are you actually going to use it for? At that point, you'll have to decide if you have enough of it to actually complete that project, or if you can combine it with another similar fiber and weight in order to have enough for a complete project. If all that kind of ends up being fruitless, donate. Please do not just take that one random ball of yarn and throw it in the keep pile without it having a purpose. You're going to go back, you're going to be here again in a year, you're going to be looking at that same ball of yarn again. It still hasn't been used. Let it live. Donate. Your third pile is repurpose. This is leftover scraps, tangled messes that you've told yourself you're going to address but just haven't done it yet. Your leftover yarn scraps can be put into a jar to use for amigurumi stuffing. And for the repurpose pile with all the random balls of yarn you find, here's how I do it, if this is helpful. If it's like less than a yard of yarn, including all my little yarn snippets from my yarn tails, those all go into a jar for amigurumi stuffing. If it's more than a yard but less than like a whole ball, and it does not have another matching ball, it goes into a basket where I collect what I consider like scrap yarn. And these small bits will become a scrappy project later when I have enough of them. For example, a few months ago, I had more than enough of scrap yarn and I turned all of that into this big, fun, super colorful, scrappy blanket. Doesn't matter what yarn weight it was, doesn't matter what fiber it is, I just used the same hook size, turned it into a blanket. And now I have a new small growing collection of that category that will eventually become another scrappy project. Finally, if it's almost complete ball of yarn, I'll categorize it with other similar fiber types and weights, and then I can see them all together and know that they can all be used for a project together. This is your moment to be totally ruthless. If it does not spark inspiration in you, let it go. And while you're at it, let go of the guilt and be realistic about what you'll actually use. This is your moment. This is why you are here. Make those hard decisions right now before you move on to the next phase. Trust me, it feels so good to release what is no longer serving you. Okay, so before you move on to phase 3, you're also going to take this opportunity to tidy things up a little bit. So when you look at those piles, you may find 1 or 2 or 3 balls that have gone totally rogue on you. Get out your yarn winder and give those balls some love. You're taking this opportunity to get all of that yarn in neat working order so you can just grab it off the shelf when you need it and it'll be ready to go. Oh my gosh, this is like when you go to the kitchen to make dinner and you realize you actually have to clean the kitchen before you have the space to make dinner, only to clean it up again later. This is the same idea. Nobody wants to do that. You're gonna look at that tangly yarn ball and go, not doing that, and it'll just sit there. So get that fixed now. we're taking a deep breath together because that was hard. That was definitely the hardest part. Now that you've pared down your stash, it is time to sort. Now it's gonna get a little more fun. How you sort is completely up to you. Choose the method that fits how your brain works. But the point here is to categorize your yarn in a way that is most functional for you to quickly know what you have so that you can use it in a practical way. Here are probably the 5 most common ways for categorizing your yarn, but not necessarily in this order. Number 1, by fiber type. So wool, cotton, acrylic, blends. 2, by yarn weight. So DK, worsted, bulky. 3, by color. This one is definitely very popular. This is a great if you're a real visual crafter and you just want to display your yarn in a big splash of beautiful rainbow color. By brand, so if you work with consistent lines of yarn that you use together for specific projects, this could be really helpful for you. And finally, by project. So if you're buying a bunch of yarn that's going to be used specifically for a project, keeping that yarn together all in one place can kind of inspire you to use that yarn sooner than later. And it might be a blend of all of these. For example, for me as a designer, I sort first by fiber type, then by weight, then by color. And that allows me to take a big picture look at my shelves and get inspiration for what I can do with that yarn that is stored all in that one cubby together. This is also a great time to do some micro organizing. Here I'm talking about labeling. Maybe you even want to start a system that keeps track of all the yarn that you have on hand. Personally, I'm able to just look at my yarn and know what I have because I can just see it all displayed out for me, and that's what works for me. But if you're working with bins or a storage situation where your yarn can't all be stored in the same place, you may want to document what you have in a way that's easy for you to see what you have, add to it, remove from it. In fact, I think Ravelry has a tool where you can keep track of your yarn stash. I've never actually used it myself, but I feel like I've seen that option on there before. And if you can't find that on Ravelry, I'm sure there's an app for that. Okay, now we get to the fun part, putting everything back in a way that is organized, accessible, and beautiful. This is where all of your planning and hard work in the previous phases pays off, and you just get to bring it all together. So going back to phase 1, where you decided on where you're going to put your yarn and what it's going to go into, we're gonna revisit that now. Now that you have your yarn stash tidied up, just assess everything and see if you need to go out and buy any other storage solutions or if you can get away with what you already have on hand. And if you're using bins, be sure to label them accordingly so that you can quickly assess what's in them rather than having to open them up and dig through them and mess up your nice organization project. So have fun with this as you get to bring your vision of your organization project to life. Okay, so yarn isn't the only thing that needs a home. It is time to tame the chaos of all of your tools, your hooks, your scissors, your stitch markers, and all of the other random notions. So just like you did with your yarn, and maybe you've actually already done this when you were pulling out your yarn, but you're gonna pull out all of your tools and notions and sort them into those same 3 piles. Keep, donate, and repurpose. You're gonna keep all of your favorites, of course, all of your hooks, all of your tools, your must-have, the things that you reach for every time, or things that you know that you will use for sure. Maybe you don't use it for every project like stuffing or whatever. You're gonna keep all of that stuff. Okay, you're gonna donate a whole bunch of duplicates or items that you never use. I will say that I keep duplicates of all of my hooks in case I misplace them. And I do have a set of these really beautiful wooden hooks that aren't super functional for me, but I love to look at them because they're so beautiful. So those are kind of my extras that I keep. Other than that, donate the stuff that you're just not using anymore. Finally, if there's anything that you're not using for crochet or for crafting, but it still could be used for something else around your house or another project, go ahead and do that now and give it that space. So as far as storage solutions for these small tools and notions, here are some ideas that I have for you. So for all the little stuff like the stitch markers, pins, safety eyes, buttons, all the little stuff, those work really well in those like divided boxes, like bead organizers. I also use little decorative clear jars, like little spice jars for these. A tackle box or a craft organizer is awesome for storing almost anything, and you might actually be able to fit all of your tools and notions into like one tackle box. For hooks, gosh, you can use pencil cases, pouches, some kind of divided like desktop organizer that helps them stand up straight. I use this cute spinny organizer that I believe is some kind of like desktop organizer for pens and pencils and scissors and stuff. Another solution that works well for everything is a binder with zipper pouches and pockets. You can store everything from your tiny stitch markers to your jumbo hooks. There's also a huge array of stackable plastic drawers, or like plastic craft drawers with all kinds of different sized little drawers that you could also store pretty much everything in. If you're looking for something that doesn't take up shelf space, you could use like hanging pouches or even those magnetic strips, like those knife strips to hold like scissors, anything that's metal. It can hold those little magnetic tins that you can put all your little notions in. And a strip like that could probably even hold your metal hooks as well. And for on the go, or if you just have a handful of notions, these divided pencil pouches are perfect. This is the one that I use every single day. It goes with me everywhere I go, and it's just become the thing that is always in my project bag. Here's another plug for thrift stores. If you are looking for something really inexpensive and unique, you can almost always find an array of interesting little organizers at a thrift store. The ones that I frequent just always have wooden, metal, all kinds of fun little different unique ways to organize, and it just adds a really fun kind of unique vibe to my yarn space. So after you've sorted through all your tools and found the proper storage solution for them, you're going to want to store them by grouping them in like items, like your hooks together, your stitch markers together. Just makes it easy to locate what you need when you need it. Once I got all of my yarn organized, I decided I want to add a little pizzazz by switching up my decor a little bit. Just because you have a small space doesn't mean you can't make it cute and inviting, right? I'm adding some color and texture to my space with these gorgeous Diamond Art Club pieces. They sent me this DIY diamond art wall hanging and these diamond art coasters, and I am so excited to add some bling to my space. Okay, so bling is something that would normally be a bit out of my norm, but as I was scrolling through these hundreds of options I have, I got really excited about adding some of these gorgeous nature pieces to my craft space. What better way to spiff up my craft space than with a craft I made as well? This was my first time creating a piece of diamond art, and I was immediately hooked. I was actually really surprised how easy it was, and the meditative, relaxing effect I felt was exactly how I feel when I crochet. And with the grid style design, it reminded me so much of all the tapestry crochet patterns I've been making lately. If you want to give this diamond art a try, you can use my special coupon code Lindsay20, which gives you 20% off your first purchase. That's LINDSEY 20, and I'll leave all the details in the description box below. I loved how these little touches of bling added kind of a fun new feel to my workspace. I just want to pause for a moment and say congratulations. Your stash is now completely sorted and beautifully organized. And I know that was a lot of work, but how do you keep it that way? That's where this final phase 6 comes in, which I call mindful maintenance. These are the easy, quick things that you consistently do going forward so that you never have to do that again. So here are some tips for long-term success. Always put your yarn back where it belongs immediately after you are done with a project. This means cleaning out that project bag right away and putting that yarn and tools back where they belong, ready to be easily accessed for the next time. Establish a routine for quick maintenance. Whatever that looks like to fit into your schedule, maybe take 10 minutes at the end of each week to just go through and tidy everything up. Regularly check your stash before buying new yarn. This is going to be your key to not getting just completely carried away by the size of your stash. And this is also one of the keys to sustainable crochet, where the goal would be that like the vast majority of the yarn that you have already has a project planned for it. And if it doesn't, Always turn to it to see if you can use it up before you buy new yarn for your next project. Schedule seasonal check-ins to declutter or reorganize. About once a quarter, I go through and just do a general cleanup, which normally includes small little bits of each of the phases. So this would be like I go through and I recake any yarn that is looking messy or just didn't get recaked after I finished a previous project. Also being sure that anything that has been added to my collection has a rightful home and isn't just like sitting randomly in a bag in front of my shelving, which is like totally my guilty habit. At this seasonal check-in, I also just do a look over of everything I have and do a really mini version of phase 2 where I'm noticing any yarns that need to find a new home or be donated because like I've tried it and I just don't like it and I need to admit it and I need to donate it rather than just having it take up valuable shelf space. Another key to mindful maintenance, which we talked a little bit about in phase 3, is to keep a running inventory of your yarn or implement some kind of system so you know what you have, especially if your storage solution involves bins or keeping yarn stashed away out of sight. Out of sight, out of mind can lead to buying yarn you don't need or that you might actually already have. Keep dedicated project bags for each of your WIPs. This keeps the yarn and tools you're using for a specific project together in one place. And then keep a bin or a basket that is dedicated to keeping all of those project bags in one place. So when you're not working with one or you finish it up for the night, put the WIP bag back in the basket. And I know this is a controversial topic, so completely ignore me if this doesn't work for you, but you might want to consider limiting yourself to the number of WIPs that you actually have space to keep tidy. This is one of the most common contributors to just like yarn explosions everywhere. When you get too many projects going, there's just nowhere to put them. A tidy yarn space makes your creativity flow so much easier. It makes crafting feel like the joy that it's meant to be. The more crowded and disorganized and messy your space is, the more that mess infiltrates your creative space and infiltrates that inspiration and takes away from what crocheting is meant to do, which is give life and give joy. So after you're done with your yarn organization project, I hope your yarn space is now a peaceful, organized haven for you and all of your crochet projects. And if you haven't already, be sure to grab that Yarn Space Makeover checklist to help you stay on track and maintain your new space. The link is in the description box below. And let me know in the comments which phase you are most excited to start or what tip from today's video was your favorite.